What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's get to it. Let's talk about it. Good peoples. Oh, yeah. You know I was going to premiere this. This is the truth behind New York Undercover, the TV show. Now, New York Undercover television show was unique. It was the first of its kind, and we never really quite had another one like it since. That's why they're talking about bringing it back and rebooting it. Because for the first time ever, there was a cop show of two people of color, and one denomination wasn't Caucasian. Shockingly, this hadn't happened before, and especially from a television perspective. Now, Fox, who normally had its Thursday night lineup, it was basically Black Night. You had Martin and In Living Color, so they were looking for another show to go in between that. But they don't want another comedy show. They want to do a drama show. They had Living Single. You got all these comedy shows lined up at night. They wanted to have like one drama show, something that was gritty. Now, what was happening is that Andre Harrell, who was the president of Uptown Records at the time, you heard the story. He found Puff, and they went from there, and all those wonderful things happened once he got Puffy. Now, while he was president of Uptown Records, he was getting ready to do a deal he had did with MCA. And MCA, he had made MCA a lot of money, like tons of it. And because on the strength of what he did there, making them a lot of money, which they like, they decided, you know what? Since he's making us this much money, let's bring him into the film deal as well. So they gave him a distribution deal, which included music and movies. So they said, look, we're going to do a deal with you, Andre. If you want to go ahead and, get this multimedia thing going with film and television, we have a spot open over at Fox. They're looking for something fresh. So they began to develop New York Undercover. At the time, it was called Uptown Undercover, like Uptown Records. So it was written up as Uptown Undercover. He went in there and wanted to get two cops, that were basically young and mostly into hip hop and things of that nature. And it was a good launching point for a lot of artists that they were going to come out with and premiere at that time. So when the show was in development, they were trying to get the cast and people, who going to play the role. And they just wanted to mix it up and show New York. When they say, you know what, let's not make it Uptown Undercover, because he was also in a deal at that time where it was being negotiated. He might be moving to Motown. so it was just like New York Undercover. Works a lot better. So New York Undercover was being made. Now, as this was going on, they wanted to make it like New York. You got a lot of people undercover. You got a lot of people of different denomination, different heritage. That's New York. So why wouldn't the police department, which they really do, represent that? It need to be represented on the film. It only makes common sense that it goes out that way, right? It makes sense to you? Makes sense to me. But in movies, we don't normally see that portrayed. They show a whole bunch of Caucasian people and maybe a few, one or two people of color, and then that's that. So this was more gripped towards reality. Plus, it was like, wasn't boring. The dialogue is normally meant for young adults, like in their 20s, and people 18, 17. People were staying up late to watch the show. People who had to go to school would stand up late to try to watch New York Undercover. It was a hip show, and it dominated as like the number one in the black for black shows. Period. It was just like number one ruling. Just like get out of its way. It's got its own momentum. Don't even think of trying to stop it. So as the show was, moving forward, you started to see a big change. You started to see people gravitating more to it and talking about it with their friends. And back then there was no social media, so things moved around from word of mouth, and people going to work like, man, you got to see this show, New York Undercover, and it was getting a lot of publicity. Now during its time, things were starting to change because Malik Yaba, who's there, him and Michael De Lorenzo, who they want to write the show around, um, as they're getting ready to, premiere the show and everything else, and they're working on it. Tupac at this time was in New York. He had just finished, I think they did Above the Rim. He was hanging out there, and I think he had just did Bullet or something. Like, not that film, Above the Rim, but a Bullet. And he was just going through his court trial for the case and everything else. So when they were filming Above the Rim, Andre Harrell, who he knew through, they had contacts with the same people in there. And he knew Puff, he knew Andre Harrell and all those guys. So he was like, let me meet with Andre Harrell. So he went down there and Andre talked to him. He was like, man, I want to get on that show. Because at this time, nobody was checking with Tupac for being on shows, anything. And what had happened in Living Color, he explained that situation with Andre and was like, man, you won't believe it, with the limo driver and everything else. So he explained the situation there and how the driver tried to extort him and all that stuff that with the Living Color situation with Fox. So he said, well, let me try to clear that up and I can get you on the show. He was like, cool. So Andre was like, he's like, man, I want to take you down there, but a lot of people are scared of you. Like the guys that cast and stuff, they kind of fearful. And a lot of the people were fearful because of who he hung around. A lot of the people that the cast members, the writers, and they're from New York. They know the people who Pac was rolling with at the time. So they were like, man, he hang with some dangerous people. And we ain't want to have nothing to do with it. So while that was going down, all these things was being said and moved around, people were a little leery about dealing with Tupac. So Tupac said, let me meet him. Take me down there. Then they get to meet me. And then they won't be scared no more. So he went down there and met with them. It was him by himself. Came down there. He talked to Malik Yaba for about 2-3 hours. Gave him a Thug Life shirt. And everything was like love. He explained his case and all his cases to all of them. He was like, man, dude, this dude is innocent. Dude, he's like, the way he explained it made no sense. Like, why would they even be a case? So he leaves, and the next night is the New York shooting. The very next night. And very strangely, one of the storylines in New York Undercover had one with a rapper with this guy looked like he resembled another record producer for Low Life Records, and he's in there and it's looking really bad. And it looks very similar to the Tupac situation. And matter of fact, I think one of the writers said that they did borrow some from that, and people felt, like a little like, hey, I don't know about this because they from New York. And the show the ratings were through the roof. They had nothing but all the young black couples, everything. They were killing in that ratings. And they were going up against Seinfeld. Seinfeld was the #1 show, period. And on the Thursday lineup, they going up against Seinfeld. So they were going to be doing some decent numbers. But overall, they weren't really cracking the other genre. But for what Fox needed them to do and wanted them to do, that urban demographic, they crushed it. They were the #1 show. Man, that's some powerful Doritos. So after that, things began to change. Dick Wolf is loving the show, but the cast know that they're a hit. 2 seasons in, oh, they rolling. Things are looking good. Then, right into, I believe, the 3rd season, they were going into they did 2 seasons down, and that's when Dick Wolf, Tupac, had died. And the show had made a lot of progress, put a lot of rappers on the shows, to getting them some exposure. Ice-T got his exposure from this show, which led him to getting a deal on television. So you started to see a change. The producer and one of the creators, Dick Wolf, comes around and starts saying, the show is a little too black. We gotta, change it up a little bit. No more rap. No more rap angles. That's it. We got to get away from rap. No rap angles. So some of the writers end up like leaving. They're like, look, I can't work like this. This guy's changing my scripts. We had a storyline and now they're destroying the storylines. And a lot of them didn't like it. So a lot of them quit and went and got other jobs. Another problem on the set is how people saw that they were the #1 black show, period. And they were looked at that. Like, through the urban market, they're #1. And they're seeing the way they're being treated, and they're looking at people like Friends. Friends is getting all this money on their show. They're getting paid $25,000 an episode. And they're like, wait a minute. We're getting $25,000 an episode. They're getting 60 and they're fighting to get more. Like, what's going on there? So they were fighting to get 100,000 an episode, and they were looking at their numbers compared to like Friends and everybody else, and they're like, wait a minute, we deserve or some type of a raise or something here. Because our numbers in the ratings, and they start paying attention to this, and they start seeing the way they were being treated on the set. Like, the food was terrible. They were basically eating hoagies and canned sodas and water bottles out of a pop machine. I mean, really, they had that kind of food on the set, like wrapped up hoagies. And it was just like terrible catering, like no catered food. It was like, what is this? Like, this is what a #1 show. And they had these small, like, they had no trailers, nothing. Like, really, it was like dressing rooms. Everybody else had trailers. They had like dressing rooms. And they're like, man, this is like second rate. So Michael De Lorenzo, he decided to complain about it. And he started this revolt of getting everybody together. The guy played Eddie Torres. So he got Malik Yaba to agree. Like, look, We gotta hold out if we gotta hold out, because there's no show without us. This is not right. As human beings, even though we got a contract, we got rights. So we want a functional gym that we could work out at like everybody else has. And all they wanted was what everybody else got. Fox was being cheap and was basically not giving them what they wanted. And Dick Wolf is, you signed our contract. And this is the way it goes. I just want people to honor the contract. If people start doing business like this, the whole thing's going down. It's just ridiculous. You sign a contract, you honor your contract. That's all it is. So they started to blast him in the media and start talking. So he was gonna sue them for defamation of character. So while he was getting ready to sue them for defamation of character, you had them going to get a lawsuit from lawyers and paperwork, 1.2 million apiece. Dick Wolf was going to sue. They didn't have 1.2 million. They were like, Dick, you're wasting your time. These guys are broke. They're getting 25,000 an episode. They're not gonna get. They're not gonna be able to afford this. You're gonna just bankrupt them. And he's like, I know. They're setting a bad presence. So he ended up settling. They wanted 100,000 an episode. They end up settling on 75,000. They got a $50,000 increase in pay. They got bigger trailers. They got better food. Their creative input was going to be used. And Michael DeLorenzo wanted to direct some episodes. And they agreed to that. And they got what they wanted. They got that big gym so that they can go in there and work out on the set and make sure they're fit and looking good. And they agreed to these things. Now, during this time, it was also some information being leaked out about Michael DeLorenzo's personal life. Things get dirty when you get into negotiations. And information started leaking out about him leaving a double life, about his sexual history. They rumored him having a relationship with Michael Peters, who was the choreographer for Michael Jackson during the Thriller and Billie Jean and all of those days, with being with Michael for the Thriller album. He was actually in the Beat It video with Michael Peters, who who was openly gay and died of AIDS. Now, it was always these rumors and things being leaked via internet and everything else about him because he was a dancer and all these things. So information was starting to creep out about him and having a relationship and are they dating for real. And then now with all the talk about Malik Yoba and his situation with what he's been going through lately, people are starting to put the one and twos together. But I doubt. I won't say I doubt. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it did get leaked by because of this feud and what had happened at the time. Could have been. But anyway, they went into the season ready to go. Fresh season 3. Next thing you know, one episode, just out of the blue, Detective Torres, everyone knows Mike DeLorenzo decides to go in there and check a bomb, and a bomb blows off, boom, and kills him. He's off the show. It was shocking, uneventful, And that was it. Many felt like, this was a payback for what he did. And they looked at him as the guy that orchestrated this, and because of it, they got him off the guy. They agreed to everything he wanted, and he got it all in 1 year, and they got rid of him, and they replaced him with two more actors that that were less than what he had. They had Tommy, then they brought in somebody else from the SAG to finish out the last season, which was in like '99. And Tommy was good on there. Tommy from Martin, I thought he did a great job on the show. But at this point, the show had ran its course. It was becoming really expensive. And without Detective Torres, people don't know where the direction the show is going in anymore. So it just ended, just uneventfully. Just decided, we're just gonna shut it down. They didn't really have a reason to. It wasn't like the show had fell completely off the charts. People were just getting used to, the new changes that were sudden. But Dick Wolf was like, you know what? Let's just blow it up, blow the show up. We'll start something else. I got other shows that are doing well, and I don't need the headache for this. So I think once he brought them back, he was always going to shut it down after 4. Because he didn't like the fact that he felt like he got played and he lost. And he didn't want it to look as if like I lost. So, okay, you guys like embarrassed me with this. Now I can't just let you just walk around here, no matter how productive this show is. I can't let you walk around here and act as if you won and I'm paying you and you got, no. Show's over. And that was that. New York Undercover was over. And it had touched so many people, like people who were caught into these shows. And now, since then, you've seen CSI this, CSI, about 5 CSIs, about Cold Case. You got every cop show in the world start pouring out of the woodwork. And it's nothing but cop shows all on television. Thank New York Undercover for playing its part in that. It's like blacks like cop shows too. And it was fresh, young, hip. Cops was in tune to the streets. They had real life issues people could relate to, and it was a good show. It's a really good show, good writing, especially the first 3 seasons. The last season was a little crazy, but the first 3 seasons were solid. So don't forget to support the page, man. Click the link in the description box. Let me know what you think about the show. Um, Go in there and hit that Streamlab and donate to the page. That's where everyone donates at, or they can hit me up on the Cash App. My name is Carcino on the Cash App. Shouts out to everybody in YouTube Premiere who stayed here and listened to the whole thing. I see you over there. I don't see Jay Viz though. What's up, Jay? All right. Mr. Sledge must be too late for him. I don't see him. Who else over there? What's up? I see you. Deuces 100. Um, yeah, I might do another Rick James tomorrow. I keep putting it off, but I don't know. The donations ain't high enough. When we get the donations high enough, then we'll do Rick James. I'm Rick James. Got to get my voice back together. Get rid of this summer cold, and I can do Rick again. Yeah. Well, everyone else, don't forget, click these 4 boxes here. And each 4 of these corners, they got videos that you should check out.